Welcome to this episode of our podcast, Fear Less, Do More. Today I'm joined by Jamilah Hassan, who I first met and bonded with when we did a charity fashion show together, modelling second-hand clothes. Jamilah is Community Relations Manager at Banks Group, but she also has a very interesting career history alongside that. And when I first met her, it really struck me what a positive person she is and what a great attitude to life she has. Hi Jamilah, welcome to the podcast. I'm delighted that you've been able to join us today. You are the Community Relations Manager at Banks Group.
I am, yes.
For people who don't know what Banks Group is and what a Community Relations Manager would do,
Yes.
Can you just give us a little overview?
Yeah, of course. So Banks Group are a family-run business based in Durham. Our chairman, Harry, started in coal mining. And that was over 40 years ago. And then he moved into renewables. So we started a renewables wing of the business in 2009, I think. And then we've most recently diversed into property development. So now we are building Banks homes. So it's a little amalgamation of everything. And then my role as Community Relations Manager is to work with the communities that we're hoping to develop. So that would be with the leaders of the council, the cabinet members, local ward councillors, but also the residents. So my role would be to find out what it is that the cabinet want to see delivered if a property is built, and we get planning permission for that. And then to work with the local residents to kind of set up consultation events so they can meet the project team, find out about what the site could be like or what we're proposing to build. And then the best part of the job is the community fund. So I get to find community groups and organisations in the area who are doing amazing things, and then I get to give them grants because we have usually a small pot of funding for each development, and it's very, very cool.
So tell me about some of the people that you've met through that, some of the community groups that you've come across that are doing amazing things.
So we've currently got a proposal in Bebbside and Blythe. So I've been working with a community group called Buffalo Community Centre, and they're absolutely incredible. So they're a space in Blythe, and they've been open for decades, and they're basically just a place where people can come in. They have youth clubs, they do help with refugees, they put on events at Eid and bring people together so that they can learn about Islam. Alongside them, I've also been working with Headway Arts, which is the Lega Theatre group in Blythe, and they work with children with special needs, and they were able to buy a stage with the grant funding, and they put on incredible shows constantly. But then it could also be Blythe Spartans who would give grants to, and then that money goes towards fixing a roof, or it could be equipment for the under 9s, the under 14s, it could be anyone. So there's just loads of people who do amazing things, and I get to help them in some way, shape or form, which is really nice.
And do you stay sort of in contact with them afterwards? Do you end up spending all of your time going around to see theatre productions on the stage that you sponsored and football matches? And...
This is why it's the best job in the world. And everyone in the office is like, are you in this week? But the amazing thing about the grants as well, so once you've been able to get the grant, so say it was you wanted to buy, I don't know, new furniture for the reception area of a school or something, once they've bought that grant, they can then reapply. So I do have the opportunity to be able to keep building the rapport with the community groups and keep helping and seeing it kind of go from here to them renovating it and changing it and adding all of these things there. So I think we've been helping Buffalo Community Centre since I started, which was like over 2.5 years ago now. And they've just recently got a grant for some new windows. So there's always little things that different places are trying to propose to build and improve the facilities for the people that need it the most. And I get to watch that. So it's great.
But it must be quite hard though, because you must have lots of people who need support, and you've got to make that decision as to where the money goes. How do you do that?
So the good thing is I don't have to make that decision. So I go and find them, but then there's a panel. Right. So the money for the project funds is managed by the Community Foundation, and they've just changed the name to Point North, which is Durham Community Foundation in Durham. Mm-hmm. So they manage the funds, so they would then contact the Community Foundation and they'd get a grant application to fill out, and then it's the foundation that deal with the application from then, and then that gets sent to an external panel, and then the panel make the decision on the recommendation given by the Community Foundation. So the Community Foundation might say, yes, they've completed all the due diligence, it's perfect. Or they might say, oh, there's some concerns. And then the panel make the decision whether they still want to give the funding or not. And then the Community Foundation will then give the news. And then I'll be like, have you told them? Can I go and say them?
So you get all the nice bits.
Yeah, I get the nice bits.
So how did you end up in this? How that it's quite a niche role. What's your background?
The story. Well, I literally didn't know what a community relations was. A community relations manager was 3 years ago. Literally no idea. So previously, I was working for Tommee Tippee, the baby brand.
Oh, right,
Yeah, so I was a team leader for Tommee Tippee. And then alongside that, I was a radio show host in the morning. So I'd start the day doing like a breakfast radio show. Then I would do Tommee Tippee. And then alongside that, I was doing social media work as well. So I'm a musician. So I've always worked in social media. That's something that I love. So I was working for a company called Selfie Central in the Gate at the time. And then I just loved the work that I was doing there. And I thought, oh, when I leave Tommee Tippee, I think I'm probably going to go into social media so I can do it like on a larger scale. So it was actually a social media position that I applied for at Banks. So I'd applied for the position, I'd gone for the interview, and then it was like a 2-stage interview. It was quite excessive actually, to be honest. So there was like presentation as well, and then there was quite a few other bits to go with it. And then halfway through the interview process, the director of communities at the time was just like, I have a different job for you. And I was like, oh, do you? And then he was just like, yeah. And then told us about the role. And I was like, I've got no idea what that is. And he was like, I don't want you sat behind the desk sending tweets. And he was just like, this is perfect for you. And he was like, you'll learn along the way. And he was like, are you interested? So then I was like, go on then. Why not? And I've loved it from the second I started.
So why not? Is that something that sort of followed you through life of going, well, all right then, give it a go?
To be honest, pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
Because what a lot of people won't know is that, you've mentioned there that you were a radio presenter and that you're a musician, but music's a massive part of your life. Huge part.
It's what makes me happy, to be honest. It's what makes me happy. And it's just been me love for so long. So long. And I mean, to be honest, when you speak to some musicians, they'll be like, yeah, I've been a singer since I was like 4 years old. But I actually started quite late. I started when I was 19. And then, yeah, ever since I started, it was just everything there was. So it's, yeah.
What sparked that interest then? Where did you have people in your family who sang or people that you really admired? What?
So my mum's an amazing singer. She's absolutely amazing. She never sings. Nobody knows she sings, but she's absolutely amazing. And she's got like quite an operatic voice, but she can never remember the words, which I can relate to because neither can I. So she just never did it. Music's always been like a big part of the family life because my dad was always playing, like Sunday mornings was where my love for music really started. He would like blast Tony Braxton and Michael Jackson, Boyz II Men and Kenny G, and like every Sunday, like crack of dawn, as long as you heard someone and the like ghetto blast out that was about this big. If you heard that Sunday morning, it was a good day. So that's where my love for music started, and I always listened to it, but I was never like, I want to be a singer. I could always sing. And I remember in school, they'd always be like, oh, you sing, come by over. You sing, and he's got the whole world in his hands. And I'd be like, oh, right, okay. But that was kind of where it stopped. And then I went to St. Milford's School in South Shields, and there was a girl, there were girls in the year above who'd gone on to X Factor. And one of the girls in the band used to go out with me big brother. So like everyone at school knew that I sang. And then they'd got to judges' houses the year that JLS were on.
Right.
And then they'd been kicked out of the competition at that time. And then they'd dismembered and they were like trying to recruit again. And then I just got a call one day and she was like, it was Livy. And she was like, oh, did you see what the X Factor? I was like, yeah, it was wicked. Obviously everyone at school was like, wow. And I was like, yeah, it was wicked. And she was like, do you want to join? Because we're going to go on again next year. And I was like, oh, because I'd literally just had my son. I just started university and I was just like...
Sorry, there's a son in that. I've forgotten about that. There's a child that happened in all of that as well.
There was a little boy who'd been born like 2 months early at the time, and he was still in hospital in like special baby care unit, and I was like living between special baby care unit and lectures. So it was like me and his dad would just go to lectures and then go to the hospital. So it was mad. And I remember being in the car with my mum when I got the call, and she was like, why not? And I was like... yeah, she was like, why not? You love to sing, so just see how it goes. So I was like, all right then. So then I started rehearsing with them, and I'd take my little car seat when he got out of hospital, and he would like be at rehearsals like on the table. And then that was how it started. And then we went on X Factor 2008, the year that Joe McKelvey won, because Joe was at our school as well.
Wow, gosh, South Shields is the place to be for music stars.
Yeah, Jade was at our school as well for Little Mix. It's like everybody. And then we got to the last stage of boot camp, and then we hadn't listened to the advice that they'd given at that stage. So they were like, obviously you think you know what you're doing, so this is the end of the road for you. And that was, then I was like, this is what I want to do. And then we're like open for GLS in Ireland and in England, and we're open for Tayo Cruz and Lamar. And I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I have to do it. And then I've always done it since.
When you were told like this is the end of the road for you, but you didn't take that to heart and go, right, well that's it, this little adventure's over.
Yeah.
So it works the opposite way with you. It made you think, oh yeah, no, this is absolutely what I want to do. I'm going to have lots of people say no to me. I'm quite happy to do that.
You know what? I've never heard it put like that. But I like that. I do like that. I think as well because I was in a girl band at the time and the sound was like, well, we were doing a lot of covers. We were only doing covers, so I hadn't worked on any original music at the time. And I'm like a proper R&B head. Like I love R&B. That's it for me. So I was kind of like, all right, okay, so it's not going to work in this setting, but that's not to say that I can't do it. So I think I'd stayed with the band for maybe a year after that. And then I was like, right, I can't be in the band anymore because, I'm Muslim, so I don't drink. And a lot of the times when you do shows, you get like a free bar and it's just like drinks on drinks on drinks. So for the girls, it was like, right, let's get them all every night. But for me, I was like, will you get home soon? So I was like the serious one, do you know what I mean? And it just didn't feel like a right fit. And I remember having a conversation with my dad, and my dad was like, oh, could you be best friends with the girls outside of the band? Because obviously if you're in a girl band, you just have to be like together all of the time. And I was just like, if it wasn't for the band, I don't think I could be. And he was like, I don't think it's for you. So then I left the band and then I just started doing my own thing. So
in that sort of experience that you had, there must have been some like real like pinch me moments where you thought, how am I here? What's gone on there? Tell us about sort of the highlight where you thought, wow.
There's been a few moments that have just like taken my breath away, to be honest. So I did a competition and it was to open for Nelly, who's like an American rapper. And I've been a huge fan of his for like, well, since I can press record on my tape repair. So I'd won this competition to open for him on his UK leg of tour in Newcastle. And it was a sold out show at the O2 Academy. And I remember walking in, and then there was like the thing on the door for like the times, and it was like DJ starts, and it was like Jamilah, then it was like Nelly, and I remember going absolutely ballistic, and I was like, ah! And then his security came out and we're like, what's going on? And they're just
crazed fan.
You know, yeah, they were like, oh, the fans aren't allowed in yet. And I was like, that's my name on there. I was like, I'm opening for him. And they were like, oh, right, okay. And then I remember after I'd like performed, they came out and they were like, oh, you were actually really, really good. Like, sorry about like scaring you. Yeah, I was like, it's all right. So that was an amazing moment. And I got chosen for Vodafone, did like a Futures Breakers thing. And it was like people that they were like, oh, these are who are like ones to watch. And I was chosen for the Vodafone Future Breakers. And then I performed at the Capital Summertime Ball, but it was the pre-show. That was nuts because that was Wembley. And it was like, that was crazy. And then BBC introducing, I'm a big fan of BBC introducing. And then they chose me as one of their top tips for 2020. That was a humbling moment. But yeah, I've just had so many amazing experiences. I've met so many wonderful people and it's brought us so much joy for so long. I love it.
Do you ever get stage fright?
Every time.
Do you? How do you deal with it?
Proper nervous. Like my stomach starts to go and I immediately need the toilet. But I go quite quiet, which is not common. But like before a show, I'm like quite quiet. But then once I get on there, I just don't want to come off.
So what advice would you give to some? I mean, it's a massively competitive industry. There are a very, very, very small proportion of people who make it in the industry. What advice would you give to somebody who is a 19-year-old with a 2-month-old child who's thinking, oh, I might go into music? What advice would you give?
You're so right, because yeah, it's one of those things that you can't say, right, okay, I want to be selling and being number one selling artist this time next year. That's not something that you can decide on. But I just think if there's something that you love to do, just do it. Like,
why not?
Yeah, why not? Like, I can't control what the outcome's going to be, but I know how it makes us feel when I do it. So regardless of at what level, I'm so fortunate that I get to be paid to do something that I love, and I just feel so full and so whole when I'm doing it. So I do it because I love it. And I think if you love something, regardless of what it is, you should always do it, even if it's on like a small scale, because we have to do what we love. Like life can be so hard, and we can have so many responsibilities and so many things that kind of take away from doing the joy that we should be doing. So just find some time, anytime, even if it's just for in your bedroom, on a karaoke machine, or with I don't know, shaving
hairbrush.
Yeah, you just gotta do what you love. That's what I think. Just
Brilliant.
do it. Yeah.
Just popping in to say, if you are enjoying the conversation so far and want to make sure you keep up to date with other episodes, then please hit follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. Let's jump back into the conversation now. So, I mean, you know, it sounds like all very glamorous, but you know, you hinted there. You said, you know, you had a newborn baby who was in special care.
Yeah.
So that must have been an incredibly stressful period of time, as well as very exciting. Tell us about what that was like.
I wouldn't say exciting at the time, which it breaks my heart to say, because like children are the most amazing thing in the world, aren't they? And being a parent is like the biggest blessing, the biggest blessing. And it breaks my heart because at the time it was like the worst news I could have ever heard. There was so much heartache, so much pain, so much upset in my family. Like I literally thought I was going to break my family apart with that news. And my son has been the best thing that ever happened to the Hassans. It was like everything to everybody.
So how old is he now?
He's 15 going on 16 in November, which is like mental.
A singer?
No, you know what, right? His dad's an amazing singer. And I know he can sing, he just won't. He's like, no, absolutely not. But he plays the piano, which he's forced to do. He's been playing the piano for 6 years. And that's like me trying to just force music on him, whether he likes it or not. And I've said, until you're 18, you have to play. And then once you're 18, you can decide. He was like, on my 18th birthday, I'm quitting. I'm like, it's absolutely fine. But at least he'll have learned a skill.
I feel his pain, because I had exactly the same from about the age of 8. Because my parents had never had the opportunity to do music, to learn an instrument. So my mother was like, right, we bought a second-hand piano, and I had Mr. Bolam, if you're listening, who used to come every week. And I was just not musical. I couldn't do it. So I did force my way through some of my exams. And then when I got to 16, I was like, I ain't doing this anymore. I want to go out. So, you know, I feel his pain.
Well, how do you feel now? Like looking back, are you glad that they kind of forced it on you, or are you like, no, let's set us up?
Well, if I had been naturally musical, it would have been great. But I mean, I had to learn to play the piano.
Yeah.
I think music to me is, and you tell me otherwise, there is something in some people who just can do it. And I wasn't one of those. But
can you still play now?
It's not about me, man. It's about you.
I just need to get you both on the piano.
No, that's exactly it. No, I can't.
Can you not?
I mean, I could only ever play reading music. I couldn't play like myself.
Okay.
I couldn't just sit down and tinkle away.
In the hotel, like.
Do you play any instruments?
No, I don't. And that was another reason. Like, I wish my mum and dad had made us play an instrument and learn language. They were the two things that I wish my mum and dad had forced on all of us, but they never did. So I was like, all right, okay, I'll take the baton and I'll force it on my son instead. But he's brilliant at it. He's really, really good. But yeah, he hates it.
So what's his sort of ambition for life? What does he want to do?
He wants to play for Newcastle, centre mid.
And is that something that's a realistic prospect?
I feel like it's like music, isn't it? It's like, how realistic is it to say, yes, I'm going to sell number ones? Like I think it's one of those goals that you have no control over, but you have to try your hardest. And he just tries his hardest. He plays for South Shields Academy right now. And he loves it. So train 3 times a week, games crack of dawn on Sunday. Favourite time of the week.
Are you always there?
When I can be.
When the weather's all right.
Yeah, when it's not raining and my dad doesn't answer my calls. No, but I love it. He loves it. And it makes him happy. And he's been watching Suits. So he said that if he doesn't play for Newcastle, he wants to be a lawyer.
All right.
I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, well, we have a work placement programme, so you can come and see what it's like at ours.
I love that.
So you mentioned as well that you'd been on the radio.
Yeah.
You had a radio show. How did that come about?
So the company that I worked, like when I was working for Tommee Tippee, it was in a building called Concentrics, and inside was like Tommee Tippee. You had like Starbucks, you had the police, Intuit, QuickBooks, like loads of different businesses in this business. And then I think it was it just before lockdown had happened? I think lockdown was about to happen or around that time. And then someone had came up with the idea of basically starting a radio show for like the whole building, and it would be like distributed to all of the businesses, customer services around the world. And they were like, it was just a way to kind of bring everyone together because we had so many businesses under one roof, but we were kind of separate. So it was in IT. It was a gentleman called Brett who worked in IT at the time for the building. And then he'd gone to like the head gaffer of the building and was like, I've got this idea. And he was like, I think Jamilah should co-host it with us. So then they came to us and were like, oh, we've got this idea. We're thinking of rolling it out. Like, do you fancy it? No, obviously.
And Tommee Tippee supported you to do that. And
yeah,
said,
they were amazing.
Go on, crack on.
They were actually amazing. I was like, oh, because obviously it was up at the top who were like, well, what do we got to do it? So Tommee Tippee couldn't really be like, no. And they were like, oh, it'll only be like a couple of hours every morning. Can't you do it? And they were like, yeah, no problem. So I did the breakfast show from like 8 till 10 every morning. And then I was back at Tommee Tippee for the rest of the day. And it was just so much fun.
So did you get to choose the music that was played?
Yeah.
Is that the best bit about it?
Yeah, it was amazing. But there's so much that goes on. Like, it's not easy. Like, I thought you just went in and pressed play.
Yeah.
Or you just like, hey, Siri, play Beyonce. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't work like that. You've got to have a lot of like time there, and you've got to like bring it in at the right time. So it took us a while before I understood it, but Brett was amazing. Really, really fun.
But I think that's, again, that's a theme, isn't it? When you listen to you, it's about community and creating community and being passionate about what you do. And that, again, when you have that sort of radio show, that was really the purpose of it, was to create a community around those disparate people in that building. And that impact would have meant a lot to people. This is ridiculous, but I used to work at Topshop when I was 16.
I love Topshop.
And we used to have a DJ under the stairs.
Did you?
Yeah, there was an in-house DJ in Topshop, the top man in the Metro Centre, and it used to broadcast across all the branches in the Northeast. And it created a community.
It does.
Between the different branches, because people used to put requests in and have do competitions and quizzes. So whilst it looks like it's a frivolous thing, having a radio station, it can be very impactful.
Massively, and you were connecting with people all over the world. Like, Tommee Tippee's like a worldwide business, so there would just be people like all over the world being like, oh, can you play da-da-da-da-da? Or like, if I'd said something stupid, which happened quite often, people would be like laughing me off, what is she talking about? And it was really, really nice. But then it kind of built a community in the building as well, because then would come out and people would be like, oh my God, what was da-da-da-da? And then they'd like talk about whatever it was that we talked about. And it was amazing how people came together with it. I never realised what they were trying to do before they started. But then once we were like in the thick of it, it made so much sense.
And when you were choosing the records, who's your sort of go-to? Who's your idol in the music world?
Oh, I love Beyonce. She's my absolute favourite. I love her. I love her. I just think she's perfect.
In what way?
I think as an artist, she's kind of like the goal, do you know what I mean? She's like vocally impeccable. She's so fit. Like, she can perform and do these incredible vocals, but at the same time be like full on doing cartwheels across the stage. And then I just like the fact that you never hear like mad stories about her in the media. Like, you never see her falling out of a club like mortal. You never see her like lying on the floor doing anything like mad. She just is very professional. So I like the fact that she does her job and she does it very, very well. And I respect her so much for it. I don't love every single song that she brings out, but I love that what she represents as an artist. I think she sets the golden standard. And
you mentioned obviously that you're Muslim.
Yeah.
How has that affected how you've progressed your career, or has it not?
You know what? In the beginning, well, yes.
And I don't mean negatively.
No, of course not. Yeah. So actually in Islam, a lot, like depending on the culture that you're coming from, some people would say that like being a musician and being a Muslim are two things that you can't actually put together, like you can't do it. And it could be seen as haram. But my dad, he was always the example that we used for what a good Muslim is. And he never had a problem with us doing music. So if anyone was ever like, actually, you shouldn't be dressing like that and you shouldn't be singing that, I'd be like, well, if my dad hasn't got a problem, then it doesn't matter what you say. And I was happy with that. But I remember when I started and I was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. Islamophobia was a real thing.
It still is.
Yeah, it still is. It still is. And it's just been kind of something that I've had to deal with. I grew up in the Northeast. I mean, like I was the only one. We were the only one. So I remember consciously making the decision and not use my second name. So it's Jamilah Hassan, which is like the most Muslim name you could get, really. Like you could go anywhere in the world and if you hear it, you're like, oh, so you're Muslim. I'm like, yeah. So I just didn't use Hassan. And like, if like, when I was getting booked and someone would create a flyer, they'd put like Jamilah Hassan, and I'd be like, no, get rid of your second name, because I didn't want people to know that I was Muslim, because technically you could be called Jamilah and not be Muslim. So it was like a big fear at the time, because I was like, I don't want people to not come to the show because they know that I'm Muslim. Do you know what I mean? And it's mad that I actually felt like that for a long time. Like, I felt like that for a long time, and I was like, oh, like, it's just Jamilah for anybody. But then I think as I've got older, I'm just like, I'm Jamilah and I'm Muslim, and I'm very, very proud of that. Like, it's a big part of who I am. So if you want to put Jamilah Hassan on the flyer, go ahead and do it. But yeah, like a few years ago, younger Jamilah was not so fearless, so to speak.
So what do you think's changed then? Why are you now fearless? What's happened?
I think I've accepted the fact that people just won't love Islam the way that I love it, but I've also understand the fact that people just don't understand it. And I also come from a place where people aren't really interested in understanding it. Obviously, that's not everybody, because I meet wonderful people all the time who are like, oh my God, tell us about Ramadan. But there's so many people that are like, why don't you drink? Like, go on, have a shot. Like, why not? Do you know what I mean? So I think I've just learned that people are different. And you just have to kind of accept the way that people are, and just be you, regardless of who you're around. And yeah, I think as I've gotten older, I've just embraced that.
So would you see yourself as a role model for other
Absolutely
young
not.
Muslims? Because that's how I would perceive you. I would think, oh, if I was a young Muslim woman who was really interested in music, or had another passion, a drama, whatever it was that they wanted to pursue, I think you'd be a brilliant role model, because you're saying, look, you can do this.
I've literally never thought of that ever. I think my mum and dad will be like, what? Did someone say that to you today?
Well, I think this is one of the things, one of the real beauties of doing this podcast, is that I meet lots of people who are really inspirational, brilliant role models, and none of them see themselves like that.
That's
probably part of being a good role model. And it's not about you, it's not about ego, it's about just being yourself.
Yeah.
But that is really powerful for people who are looking for, you can't be what you can't see.
That's very, very true. And like, it would be an honour for somebody to hear me story and think, oh, that makes them feel better about doing what it is that they do. So I'd absolutely love that. But I've never thought about it before, ever.
Well, I'm sure there will be people out there who are thinking, what are you talking about?
Oh, you made me weak.
So what are you up to now? Obviously, you've got a busy job, but you're still doing your music.
Always. So I actually just released my new single on Friday last week.
Oh, wow.
And it's the first house track that I've ever done. I worked with an incredible guy called Brent Anthony, so that's dropped. And that was the first song that I've released on a record label. So we got it signed to Love to Be Recordings. So that like is a dream come true.
So what's it called?
It's called Drop It, and it's on Spotify. It's on all platforms. That's the word. So stream it and let us know what you think. And then aside from that, I'm getting ready to drop my next release, which was with an artist called Brooke Bailey from London, who is a songwriter that I work with. I'm very excited for that. And then work, banks, just loving my job, and I'm trying to be the best that I can be in that. So
how do you balance the two? Because you can't just record a song. You just don't go and do it in 10 minutes on an evening, belt something out.
Actually, there's been times.
Oh, do you? Yeah. I'm not a musician, I don't know. But
the amazing thing is, the shows are always on a night.
Yeah.
Shows are always on a night, and you've always got to find time for the things that you love, even if you're like shattered, because I've been like, I don't know, North Yorkshire and Leeds and back North Yorkshire for that day. Like, there's always time to do something that you love. So the good thing is it's always on an evening, and then if I'm recording, it'll be on a weekend. So when I'm obviously not at football, so I'll be in the studio.
Are you one of those mothers on the sideline of football?
You know what? I want to say that I'm not, but there's times it slips out. But the thing is, there's still so much I don't know. I still don't know the offside rule. And my son's been playing football for years.
Yeah.
It's just so confusing. So I don't shout too much because I don't really know what's going on. But if someone like gets a bit grabby, I'm like, ref! So it's just man on and ref. That's all I say, really.
Those are acceptable things to shout, that they fit in with the rules.
You can't really go wrong with that, especially if someone else is saying it. I'm like, yeah, ref, go on. So, yeah.
So, looking ahead, what would life look like for Jamilah in 5 years' time? What would you be doing?
I still want to be singing because it's key. And I want to be happy. I just want to keep choosing happiness because currently that's what I've been doing for a long time, and I feel really good about it. So I just want to keep doing things that I love. I want to keep helping people and being the best person that I can be, and wherever that takes us, I'll be there. There's not really a plan. I just want to be good, do good, and smile along the way. That's the plan.
Well, that sounds like a really good plan to me. And this podcast called Fear Less, Do More. What do you wish you could fear less about, and what do you wish you could do more of?
I wish I could do more to help other people. I think that this role that I've got at Banks has shown me that you can do both. Like, you can live life but also give and help people. I never thought that an employer would encourage that. So then I think being in this role at Banks has kind of shown us a new path, and now I feel like I can't ever stop doing that, and I want to do it as much as I can. What do I want to fear less? I don't want to ever think that there's something that I can't do. Yeah, I want to always feel like I can do whatever I put my mind to doing, and I want to believe that I can do that. So would that answer that question?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a personal thing, and I have no doubt, looking at what you've done so far and the way that you've approached things in a why not way, I'm pretty sure that whatever you set your mind to, you'll be able to do. So we will look with interest at what happens next. And everybody who's listening, get yourselves on Spotify or whichever platform you use and find Jamilah's new single and look out for her performing somewhere near you and get yourself along. I'm sure you'll be in for a treat.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed that episode of our podcast, Fear Less, Do More. If you did, then please follow or subscribe. If you enjoyed what we talked about in this episode, then you might enjoy this one here, which is also linked in the show notes. Thanks for listening.